Let me read to you a passage from the second chapter of St. Mark's Gospel, verses 23 to chapter 3, verse 6. It's the Gospel for the 9th Sunday of Ordinary Time Year B. St. Mark writes, "One Sabbath, Jesus was going through the cornfields, and as his disciples walked along, they began to pick some ears of corn. The Pharisees said to him, 'Look, why are they doing what is unlawful on the Sabbath?' He answered, 'Have you never read what David did when he and his companions were hungry and in need? In the days of Abiathar the high priest, he entered the house of God and ate the consecrated bread, which is lawful only for priests to eat. And he also gave some to his companions. Then he said to them, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath.' Another time he went into the synagogue, and a man with a shriveled hand was there. Some of them were looking for a reason to accuse Jesus, so they watched him closely to see if he would heal him on the Sabbath. Jesus said to the man with the shriveled hand, 'Stand up in the front of everyone.' Then Jesus asked them, 'Which is lawful on the Sabbath, to do good or to do evil, to save life or to kill?' But they remained silent. He looked round at them in anger, and deeply distressed at their stubborn hearts, said to the man, 'Stretch out your hand.' He stretched it out, and his hand was completely restored. Then the Pharisees went out and began to plot with the Herodians how they might kill Jesus." That's from Mark chapter 2 verse 23 to chapter 3 verse 6. It speaks about the Sabbath. You know, any group of people is shaped in large measure by what it does together. For instance, the local conference of the St. Vincent de Paul Society meets weekly or fortnightly, and its members regularly visit those in need, the poor. This shapes its character. With no such action, the society would die. The case is the same with numerous other organizations. The religion of a society is expressed in its rituals, its ceremonies, its religious myths, myth understood in the best sense of the word. It would be an interesting exercise to determine what action in the civil life of a society expresses and deepens its culture and distinctive character. Well, let us consider revealed religion, the religion of the Judeo-Christian revelation. I refer, of course, to Judaism and Christianity. What is the moment when the faithful come together in a common action that expresses its life, its convictions, its purpose? That moment, that action, is above all the observance of the Sabbath. The Jewish religion expresses itself in various feasts, but the most common is the weekly Sabbath. The Sabbath observance, is a festival that is probably original to the Jewish religion, it being difficult to find an exact parallel among the religions of the classical era. Christianity, coming forth from the midst of Judaism as its professed fulfillment, expresses itself in various feasts, as do all the religions, but the most important is the weekly Sabbath. This the Christian celebrates on the Sunday, the day of the resurrection of the Lord. The Jewish Sabbath began on the Friday evening, what the Church calls the Vigil. The Vigil of the Sunday was, of course, long part of the Sunday celebration in the praying of the breviary and in the celebration of certain major feasts. Well, this was extended in the latter part of the 20th century, so that now, commonly, the Church's celebration of the Sunday, the Christian Sabbath, begins on the Saturday evening and ends on the Sunday evening. The Church teaches that it is a grave obligation for every Catholic to attend Mass each Sunday. the Catechism of the Catholic Church states that the first precept of the Church requires the faithful to sanctify the day commemorating the resurrection by participating in the Eucharistic celebration. It's the Catechism number 2042. The faithful are bound, this first precept of the Church states, to participate in Mass on Sundays. It states that unless excused for a serious reason, those who deliberately fail in this obligation, that is, to attend Mass, commit a grave sin. It's the Catechism number 2181. It could be said that Sunday Mass and the observance of a due religious rest on the Sunday is the most important spiritual exercise of Christ's faithful. If every member of Christ's faithful were to attend Sunday Mass fervently and make of the Sunday the Lord's Day and not just another day of the week, the Church would be roused profoundly in vitality. What then is the Sabbath? In the Old Testament, the Sabbath was a day of rest, sanctified to the Lord. Exodus chapter 16. In Deuteronomy, Exodus chapter 31 also, and Deuteronomy chapter 5. All work was forbidden. The prohibition including strangers as well as Israelites, beasts as well as men. Besides abstention from work, special religious observances were prescribed. That is to say, the ordinary pursuits of the workaday week were interrupted and the day was given to the Lord as the author of the universe and of time. The day, thus being the Lord's, it required that each abstain from working for his own interests, and that he should devote himself to God by special acts of private and public worship. After the covenant of Sinai, God was to Israel the Lord of that covenant. The Sabbath thereby also became a sign of it, and its observance was an acknowledgement of the agreement between God and his chosen people. As we read in Exodus chapter 31, "See that you keep my Sabbath, because it is a sign between me and you in your generations, that you may know that I am the Lord who sanctify you." Thus the Sabbath observance really was a most important institution, and with good reason had the Pharisaical class striven to make it a centerpiece of the life of the nation. They went to great excess, though, and turned it to account in enhancing their own religious hegemony. Nevertheless, a legacy of the religion of Israel is the Sabbath. It is one of the 10 Commandments, and this carried over to the religion revealed and founded by Jesus Christ, the intended fulfillment of the covenant of Sinai. The Christian Sabbath remained a celebration of the creative work of God and of man's dependence on the Creator of all, especially the new creation flowing from the resurrection of Christ. But it was also a celebration of the new covenant established in the blood of Jesus Christ, creating a new relationship with God our Creator. We are now his adopted children. Let each Christian examine himself or herself about the observance of the Sunday, the Lord's Day. Apart from the fact that the overwhelming percentage of Christians do not observe the Christian Sabbath at all, I suspect that many who do come to worship on the Sunday, many who come to Sunday Mass, have something of a perfunctory attitude to it. Rather, it ought to be the highest and greatest activity of the week, the one into which we put all of ourselves in a way that surpasses everything else. Being the Holy Eucharist, it is the summit and source of the Christian life for the individual, the parish, the diocese, and the entire Church. Let us resolve to make the best of our Sunday Mass, and to devise ways of making the day itself a day given to the Lord,